The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Yeah, gang is all here. All three of us are back in studio this week, and wow, no lack of things to talk about. We get to talk about retirements. We get to talk about 2025 schedules. Yeah, not just one, but two of them released this past week. We got some new TV deals and drivers starting to get on the same horse that we've been on for a while, upset about false reporting. We're going to get all that. We got a road course at Homestead Miami Speedway. Did you know there was one? We'll talk about that. And one of the world's most famous races just about ready to get the green flag, and we'll talk about that and good grief, so much more. We got a whole lot to deal with on the show. Producer John's in studio. Matt's with me as well, and we're going to get this thing underway right after we take this short break and make sure that we've got everything buttoned down and ready to go.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. We're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
We are back. Welcome into the show. We appreciate you joining us on this Father's Day weekend. If you are a dad, happy Father's Day. I say that to my cohorts. My brother from another mother from, good grief, longer than either of us care to mention, John.
Over half our lives.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to the man who is a father, even if his son isn't currently with us.
Appreciate it.
Me, I'm a dad of 2 dogs. Close enough. And if you are a dad, again, happy Father's Day weekend to you. Hope you have a great one. Last Saturday was week number 2 of back-to-back road course weekends for the Xfinity Series. Second verse, same as the first. This time, claiming the pole, too. First ever pole in NASCAR competition. Led a race-high 32 laps in the process. Regained the lead on a late restart in a side-by-side battle that ended up with Austin Hill dropping back to 5th at the finish and some raw emotions. So basically, overall, kind of a win-win-win situation for one SVG. Because I get the funny feeling he and Austin Hill just don't seem to get along.
Well, there was a still shot that did come along that I saw after the race with SVG doing his burnout.
Yeah.
And he was, I guess you could say, taunting Austin Hill behind him. And Mr. Hill decides he wants to salute him all the way around the track with his left hand.
Yeah.
Use your imagination.
SVG is your winner. 2 wins this year. Trailed by Sheldon Creed, then Sam Mayer, Austin Green, then there's Austin Hill. Justin Allgaier was 6th. Chandler Smith, Moonlighter, John Hunter, Nemechek, Cole Custer, Parker Kligerman rounding out the top 10. So that actually means no new winners. Those who are locked in with your wins in the new seed order. Austin Hill still leads, 2 wins. Chandler Smith, SVG also with 2. Single wins for Justin Allgaier, Jesse Love, and Sam Mayer have all of them locked in. Those who are fighting for playoff positions via points, Cole Custer leads that group. Then you got A.J. Allmendinger, Riley Earps, Sheldon Creed, Parker Kligerman, and Sammy Smith sitting in 12th. He is 11 points up on Ryan Sieg for that final playoff position. Let's just say that's not the most comfortable seat on the planet.
Nope.
George Russell jumps up, claims the pole for the Canadian Grand Prix in Formula One, but, well, he couldn't hold on to the lead in the rain, while at the same time a cautionary statement for those thinking the Red Bull might be vulnerable. When it was all over, Max Verstappen was out front, got his 4th win in a row in Montreal, overcame rain, a number of safety car issues. A bug in the studio? That's me, not Max Verstappen. A number of safety cars restarts, hold down hometown favorite Lando Norris to be able to claim the win. I mean, you know, that would have been you want to talk about a popular win. Lando Norris, if he could have made that pass, but he just didn't have the car.
Yeah, it was not a good track to do passing on. It was a 1-lane track.
It really was. Verstappen wins. Gap over Norris at the end, less than 4 seconds. So much closer race than what we generally sometimes are so used to seeing in Formula One. George Russell was 3rd, besting his Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton. Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon all making up the top 10. So Verstappen is now out to a 194 to 138 point lead over Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris has jumped up. He's got 131 now. Carlos Sainz with 108. Sergio Perez, who had yet another bad weekend, continues to fall like a rock in the standings. He's got 107. Oscar Piastri's got 81, 69 for George Russell. Lewis Hamilton, 55, 41 for Fernando Alonso. Yuki Tsunoda sitting in 10th with a grand total of 19. Big gaps in there. Red Bull with the Constructors' Cup lead. Speaking of gaps, 301 to 252 over Ferrari. Then you got McLaren in 3rd with 212. My, how the mighty have fallen. Mercedes, 124 in 4th. And doesn't seem to be anywhere close to battling for 3rd.
And I don't see them getting anywhere close to doing it.
I don't either. Aston Martin's got 58. V-Carb's got 28, so Aston Martin kind of all by themselves right now. Haas F1 still holding 7. They've been there for a while. Alpine's up to 5. Williams with 2, and Sauber scoreless still. I'm not sure I'm seeing that changing either, just to be real honest.
I don't either, even though Sauber needs a swift kick.
That they do, but not by the sponsor.
Exactly.
I caught that. It has been 34 races since his last win, and sometimes that can kind of play around in your head a little bit. But for willpower, he was able to set all that aside. He got the win, led a dominating day for Team Penske, who swept the podium. Power qualified fifth, but through good strategy got out front. He was able to hold off his teammates, claim the win by more than 3 seconds, leading Joseph Newgarden to the checkered flag. Scott McLaughlin was third. Then it was Alex Palou, Kyle Kirkwood, Colton Herter, Romain Grosjean. Pato Award, Marcus Ericsson, and Graham Rahal. With your win, Power takes over the points lead, too. 236 to 231 over Alex Palou. Scott Dixon's third with 225. Pato Awards holding 184. And in fifth is Scott McLaughlin. He's amassed 179 points. Rookie standings continue to be led by Linus Lundqvist. He's got a 181-point gap over Kiffin Simpson. Teo Pourchaire is moving up the standings. He's now up to 75. Christian Rasmussen fourth with 65. Everybody else, they were either part-time or have been made part-time since, and, well, we're just not going to count them anymore. Sweeping the top 3 positions, by the way, for Team Penske, puts Chevrolet back on top of Honda in the engine manufacturer race. They're now up 561 to 545 points. That will continue to battle throughout the rest of the year. Then we head back out west to Sonoma, California, where the hometown kid was having a pretty good week. He got word that NASCAR granted him a playoff waiver, so he celebrated by going out and claiming win number 3 on the season. Now, in retrospect, if NASCAR hadn't claimed him the waiver or granted him the waiver and then he turns around and claims win number 3 on the season, wouldn't NASCAR look silly?
They would look insanely stupid like they have with a lot of things this week.
We'll get back to that. It's foreshadowing. That was, I have to admit, for Kyle Larson, it was somewhat in question. Because after the final round of pit stops, he came out, he was 8th. And it was until with 8 laps to go that he was able to get into the lead. But you want to talk about having a rocket ship. He was just able to move through traffic without really seemingly a whole heck of a lot of trouble.
Very, very quick race car for sure.
He was the one celebrating with the wine in victory lane, and this bug is going to die. Sorry, personal problems inside the studio. It's just one of those things. Larson takes over the 1 seed in the playoffs as well as with his 3rd win. It ties him at that number with both Denny Hamlin and William Byron. With 2 wins each, Christopher Bell, 1 win. With 2 wins is Christopher Bell, 1 win each. Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez. So there's the ones that are locked into the playoffs. Kyle Larson leading the way. Those in on points. Producer John's favorite driver still there, Martin Truex Jr. How much longer? We'll get back to that. Ty Gibbs, Ross Chastain, Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace make up your top 16. Wallace with a rather slim 8-point lead over Kyle Busch for that final playoff position. So, again, not really comfortable. We'll see what happens. Finally, we take you to Bristol, where the Thunder Valley Nationals got their finals in. Top Fuel came down to a battle between Doug Kalitta, Tony Schumacher. Schumacher catching Kalitta sleeping at the light. Both of them actually spun their tires. Schumacher ends up getting the win, basically because he got off the line first. For Top Fuel, a pedestrian 4.236 ET at 259.41 miles per hour. That's kind of a casual Sunday drive, isn't it, in Top Fuel?
Very, very much so.
The win is Schumacher's first of 2024, marks win number 87 of his storied career. J.R. Todd faced off with Austin Prock in the funny car final. Todd was a touch quicker off the light, but Prock took the lead as they passed the Christmas tree, rolls on to the win, run a 3.989 at 312.42 miles per hour. 2nd win of the year, 6th of his young career to date. Jed Coughlin Jr. taking on Greg Anderson in the funny car, in the Pro Stock car final. Anderson with an almost perfect reaction time. How close to perfect? How about 0.001? Can't get much better than that.
Yeah, you can't.
He develops a severe tire shake, though. That allows Coughlin to take over. That must have been frustrating as heck. Coughlin gets the win, 5.613 ET of 164.53 miles per hour. Not exactly a great run for either one of them either.
Everybody that ran that lane in the finals had the same problem.
I know. 2nd win of the year, Mark's win number 67 of his career as well. And in Pro Stock Motorcycle, I'll give you 3 guesses as to who was one of the finalists, and the first 2 don't count.
And this one was the only one that didn't have a tire shake problem.
Gage Herrera versus Gianna Evaristo. Herrera much quicker off the light, and let's face it, if you give Herrera a light advantage, you're done.
She was. I think he cut .02 something light, and she was like a .13 something.
Yeah.
He smoked her off the light.
Herrera, an ET run of 6.818, 198.17 miles per hour. That is his 4th win of the year in 4 events, and 15th of his career so far in, I want to say, something like 16 pro stock motorcycle events or something like that. I mean, he's got a ridiculous winning percentage. Doug Kalitta's got your top fuel points lead, 22 up on Justin Ashley. Sean Langdon's 48 back, 109 down as Steve Torrance. Tony Schumacher sits in 5th, 160 out of 1st. Funny Car points lead belongs to Austin Prock. He takes it over. He's now up 64 on his boss, John Force. J.R. Todd's 109 out, 117 behind is Matt Hagan. 5th place, Bob Tasca sits 193 back. Dallas Glenn's got a 21-point lead over Greg Anderson in the Pro Stock car standings. You've got Erica Enders 35 down. Jed Coughlin Jr.'s 130 down, 213 behind is Aaron Stanfield. And in Pro Stock motorcycle, Gage Herrera is so far in front out of Matt Smith that Matt needs binoculars. 174, the difference between 1st and 2nd. 227 behind is Richard Gadsden. John Hall 235 back and sitting 254 points behind the leader in 5th, Angie Smith. For this weekend, the schedule here of the series that we cover is all about NASCAR and very slim. NASCAR going to Iowa. Xfinity Series gets things rolling with the Hy-Vee Perks 250 on USA and MRN Radio, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. For those of you relatively new or have forgotten this, by the way, when it comes to giving you the times, because we're giving both television and radio, we don't give you the time that they start their pre-race coverage because it tends to vary between TV and radio. We're talking about actual race time coverage, okay? It's all NASCAR, like I said, amongst the series that we cover, and the only other race is the Cup Series, running their first ever race at the short track at Iowa Speedway. It's the Iowa Corn 350, powered by ethanol. Airs on USA and MRN Radio, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time on a non-holiday. They're going to run a Sunday evening race. I find it interesting.
They did it last year with Nashville.
Yeah, I do find it interesting because we don't see that a whole lot, and I kind of like it.
I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
So with all that being said, that means Craftsman Truck Series, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, NHRA, they're all off this weekend, which means the vast majority of them will be racing next weekend.
Yep.
The vast majority, not all. Tease for next week, because I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked that far ahead. I just kind of took a quick glance. Yeah, it'll be a busy weekend next weekend. But it wasn't exactly a quiet week this week. It started off slow. Ooh, did it start off slow, but man, did the news pick up. We'll start off with IndyCar news when we come back.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Producer John was busy just before we got rolling here because he had plenty of pictures to deal with here. Not quite as many as last week when Matt was behind the controls on that, but still a lot. And I like the one that he's got up there during the break there. That was a pretty good one. But now you got NASCAR and IndyCar both showing up on the same network. Now, we'd heard some rumors about this. You know, Fox getting interested, and we talked about that on the show. Fox getting interested in maybe bringing IndyCar on board, and we wondered at the time how that was going to work out, right? Well, now we know. Fox officially will take over televising the NTT IndyCar series in 2025, but the details weren't released. In other words, we don't know how long those rights will last, okay? But we do know this. It will mean two things. First, Fox is going to get two of the biggest races, not only here in the United States, but the world, because they will continue to broadcast Cup Series on Fox. Well, Fox Sports.
Sports 1.
Yeah, and therefore will be able to air both the Daytona 500 and the Indy 500. Again, length of the deal not announced, so we don't know how many years this goes. But for the deal, Fox and IndyCar ended up coming up to the stipulation that all IndyCar Series races will appear on the main network, and that means NASCAR takes a back seat.
Let him say that one more time.
Let me repeat that.
All 17 races on the main network.
NASCAR takes a back seat. And remember, NASCAR and Fox just signed a 7-year deal. So that runs through 2031. We know that. I don't know how long this deal lasts.
I don't know either.
In addition, the deal states that all practices and qualifying sessions, except for the ones on the Indy 500, I'll get back to that, will be either on Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports 2. In other words, not just the Peacock streaming service, NBC. And those two cable networks will also air all Indy Next races. Again, this is as opposed to the NBC deal where all Indy Next races were shunted over to the Peacock streaming service. Fox will air the qualifying sessions for the Indy 500. The practice sessions will air on Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports 2. Again, full details of this particular deal set to be announced at a later date. Both sides say that that'll happen, and that should include who will end up being the on-air talent for the Fox network when they begin broadcasting the series. Some people say Adam Alexander is the inside person. I don't know. Again, that's just some people. Don't get me wrong. I think Adam Alexander's a really good guy. I really do.
He does. He is.
But he seems a NASCAR guy.
He is. You start, Fox, you start building your booth right now. I don't think NBC is going to let you poach Lee Diffie.
Probably not. Because
Lee Diffie, I'm pretty sure, is going to move over to the NASCAR broadcast, which will be fantastic.
Well, we know that. I mean, he's going to be doing some of that later this year.
Full time next year.
Yeah, and that seems likely too.
All right. But NASCAR let Fox and IndyCar punk them.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Punk them.
I agree.
They got absolutely punked. Because now, for the Fox aspect of the NASCAR section next year, I'm going ahead and calling my shot right now and time stamping this at 8:23 a.m. NASCAR rankings on Fox are going to tank when IndyCar gets going.
We'll dive into that here in just a couple of minutes. Stick around. Fox Sports fully committed partner, they state. This is all from a statement from IndyCar CEO Mark Miles, who is understandably thrilled. Quote, "This represents unrivaled exposure and provides an unparalleled growth opportunity for the most competitive and entertaining motorsport on the planet." Don't think much of yourself, do you? Fox Sports is a fully committed partner, ready to bring engaging and technically innovative coverage to millions of fans across the country, while also promoting IndyCar thoroughly across all of its platforms. Because, yeah, it'll get on the Fox Sports app. But they're not, unlike, again, what NBC had started to do, shoving everything over to cable and or streaming. You know, kind of like what Fox is doing in NASCAR.
Yeah. But if I'm building that Fox IndyCar booth right now, there's no question your driver analyst, you go get James Hinchcliffe.
Absolutely.
No question, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And I might be tempted to break Paul Tracy out if he's willing to come back to TV. Just because of the fact that he's good, and he's one of those guys you just don't know what he's going to say. And that makes it a little bit more intriguing.
Yeah, that is true. I'm pretty sure his age would be a factor right now. But honestly, if his age wasn't a factor in, I would bring back Marty Reed.
Oh, yeah. That'd be an interesting call.
I would go try to tap Scott Goodyear.
Maybe.
Scott Goodyear was very respectable in the booth, in my opinion, during his ESPN days.
Yeah, the old ABC ESPN.
But
right?
there's no question you go get James Hinchcliffe. If you got if you end up tabbing Adam Alexander to do so. But honestly, I feel like Adam Alexander is your cup.
He's your cup guy in waiting.
He's your cup guy in waiting.
Yeah. Whether we're waiting for Mike Joy to ultimately retire or Fox to say, you know what, I know you wanted to come back next year, but we're going to move on. Either way, yeah, I would say Adam Alexander seems like the guy who's set to take over for Mike Joy.
But I'm going ahead and I'm going to throw this warning shot out to Fox right now. For the love of humanity, mankind, and the face of Mother Earth, do not resort to going to this remote booth garbage that Fox has been doing.
I really hope they don't.
Don't do it. For the love of humanity, don't do it.
Yep. I hope they don't.
IndyCar's got themselves set up perfect. Every single race on a main network that can be reached anywhere.
Yeah.
You're sitting in the catbird seat.
Oh, yeah, they are.
They're sitting there. It's a matter of execution now. Simply put, it's a matter of execution.
And we'll find out how well it's done.
It's amazing that NASCAR let IndyCar and Fox punk them on this network stuff.
And they did, huge. Because, I mean, we see it constantly, and we have updated you on a fairly regular basis on the television numbers. And I'll get back to it in a little bit, but as I have said, here in the United States, consistently, constantly, with very few exceptions, an Indy 500, for example, a Miami Grand Prix, for whatever reason, that seems to have grabbed the imagination and attention of the American viewing public. If you just take the average NASCAR race versus an average IndyCar race or an average F1 race, NASCAR will beat the pants off of them. I mean, we're talking to the point where NASCAR is pulling in 3.5 million viewers on average every race. IndyCar, Formula One, million and a half. Think about that. 2-3 times the amount. But somehow NASCAR ends up just continuously taking a back seat. I mean, if you saw that proposed unconfirmed schedule that we dealt with here on the show last week, between the 14 races that are on Fox Sports and the 14 races at the end of the year that are on NBC Sports, how many of them were on the network? 4 each. 4 each. 4 on Fox, 4 on NBC. That was it. Yet they're the moneymaker.
But
truth be told, they're the moneymaker. They're the ones that bring the eyeballs in.
NBC starting their NASCAR coverage out on USA.
Yeah, exactly.
Why?
This week.
This week. And next week, too. Their first NBC race is at Chicago, of all places. Color me shocked.
Yeah, not.
But your Fox IndyCar, there's one other person that they need to pull back that they honed their skills on, and they evolved. Let's use that word very loosely here.
Okay.
They evolved their career through working IndyCar races and then got pulled over. You go pull back Jamie Little.
That wouldn't be a bad move.
You pull Jamie Little back.
She did cut her teeth in IndyCar.
Because I'm going to tell you why, and I'm just going to call it like I see it. By them throwing her in the booth to be the lead for these races like they have for trucks and ARCA, it's knocked her back a few steps. it's knocked her back a few steps. In
Yeah,
my
it's
opinion.
not her strength.
Fox exposed her weakness.
Yeah, it's not her strength. She is best when she's doing the kind of reporting from pit road that she is used to doing and having the one-on-ones with the drivers and the crew chiefs. That really is her forte.
Because
It is.
if I'm taking and I'm finding her best race that she's had in the booth, whether it be trucks or ARCA, and I'm lining it up to last night's broadcast of the Atlas 150 ARCA race at Iowa on FS1 with them pulling over Eric Brennan, who is the lead guy for Flow Racing on the Cars Tour. Eric Brennan obliterated her last night.
There you go. About the same time that we got the word of this TV deal between IndyCar and Fox, IndyCar released their 2025 schedule. Now, not a whole lot changes other than dates for year to year. Once again, it's going to be 17 points races. The $1 Million Challenge is, but it isn't happening. It sounds weird, I know, but instead of an all-star race, in other words, the Thermal Club becomes a points race. Okay.
What?
Yeah. 2025 season starts March 2nd, streets of St. Petersburg. That's pretty typical. We're used to them kicking off the year in St. Petersburg, Florida. Then they head out west. Once again, Thermal Club. This will be March 23rd. Again, this will be a points race, not an all-star money grab.
Jeez.
April has one race, the Long Beach Grand Prix, coming up on April the 13th. They will head then to Barber Motorsports Park, but that race will actually happen May 4th. So this did give some more credence to that weird one-off unconfirmed schedule that we saw last week, which had put Talladega the last weekend in the month of April.
Loosely, and I'm going to use that. Let's use that term loosely there, because we do all know, and we do know that these geniuses, and yeah, I'm on a roll with them about it today. These geniuses that are in the upper offices of NASCAR will go, oh, hey, let's throw Talladega back in July, and they'll do it. For the love of God, do not do that.
No, you want to talk about roasting.
I don't want to watch a race with actually having to sit and touch hell's doorknob just to even get through the gate of the racetrack.
Yeah, we'll have
I don't
people
want to do that.
We'll have people falling out. I mean, I'm sorry, it won't work. So Barber on May 4th, then we go to Indianapolis. The Indy Grand Prix will run Saturday, May 10th. Sunday, May 11th, everything starts to begin to turn towards the Indy 500, which will happen on May the 25th, again, Memorial Day weekend. From there, we get into June. There is where they're going to race the streets of Detroit. Then they'll go to Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway, June 15th. The very next weekend, Road America. Then you get into July. Go to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, July 6th. The Iowa doubleheader weekend will happen the 12th and the 13th before they head north to go to the streets of Toronto. WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca will happen on streets of Toronto the 20th, 27th. They'll be at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And then you get 3 races in August that'll wrap up the year. The Portland International Raceway, and then your 2 oval tracks. The Milwaukee Mile on the 24th. Now, here's where the difference is. You said, well, wait a minute. You said that this was a points race now at Thermal Club, but you're still at 17. Remember, Milwaukee Mile this year is a doubleheader weekend. Milwaukee Mile next year is not a doubleheader weekend. It's a single race.
Bingo.
And then finally, the 31st, the season finale, once again, going to Nashville. But again, as opposed to the streets of Nashville for the Music City Grand Prix, they're going back to the Nashville Superspeedway because we will have continued construction on the new Titans Stadium, screwing everything up.
West, I see 2 opportunities that the doubleheader may be coming back. I see 2 opportunities.
Wouldn't doubt it, but
2.
We'll see. Okay, where you want to go? Other than Nashville.
I'm talking about a NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader.
Oh, okay. All right. I see where you're going. All right. Well,
look at that.
Potentially you could still say Nashville, but
Look,
but probably not.
I wasn't thinking Nashville.
Okay.
Look at that date, June 15th.
Yeah.
Where does the NASCAR weekend fall this year? If the schedule stays on a trend that it's on.
Yeah. it would be right about the time that NASCAR would be headed towards Gateway as well.
It is legitimate.
Yeah, I agree.
Even though it is not Cup, nor is it Xfinity, look at that August 24th date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Milwaukee Mile too. Yep, I know.
And how many times have trucks and IndyCar run doubleheaders? Quite a few.
Yeah, they've actually been pretty good partners over the years. I mean, they used to do it basically every year when they were in Texas. There were so many years they did it at Texas Motor Speedway.
They did it at Texas. They did it at Kansas.
Yeah.
They did it at Gateway one year.
I couldn't remember if it was Gateway or Milwaukee Mile, but I knew they had done it at one of those. So there you go. And all of this, as it turns out, ends a relationship that IndyCar has had with NBC Sports that began actually 16 years ago. At first, while it did include a majority of the races, they still had a deal with ABC that would give ABC ESPN a handful of those races, including the Indy 500. But IndyCar seemed less than happy that as things went on, even though through 2018, when NBC got everything starting in the 2019 season, initially the deal was pretty much like what we just talked about. The overwhelming majority of the races were all on NBC. Mm-hmm. And then as the years went by, suddenly we got, the Peacock streaming service started, so we want to throw some stuff over there, kind of get some original programming. And, IndyCar was rightfully saying, okay, yeah, you want to throw practice and, I don't know, maybe even qualifying as long as it's not for the Indy 500. Okay, we can do that. And then races started showing up on NBC. This year, for example, the split, 10 races on NBC, 6 on USA, and 2 of the events solely on the Peacock streamer. Streets of Toronto was one of them. I can't remember the other was only on Peacock. But doesn't matter. This upset IndyCar officials to the point where they said, if you're willing to do this, and Fox was willing to bend over and throw NASCAR under the bus to get the rights. And NBC's out in the cold.
Oh,
and let us make sure that you understand what we're talking about when it comes to the TV side of things. Because how many people are out there cutting the cord? And it doesn't matter whether it's to traditional cable or to satellite. They are going and watching television via streaming in a lot of ways. But they're being selective on which services they go to. So when you look at the viewership numbers for IndyCar races on NBC versus IndyCar races on USA, and this is last year's numbers, so we're averaging it out over the whole course of the year, setting aside the Indy 500, which is always different. IndyCar races on NBC last year, other than the Indy 500, averaged 1.026 million viewers. Think about that number for a minute and remember what I was talking about just a couple of minutes ago when I said how many viewers that NASCAR tends to pull in. And this has not really changed regardless of whether it's Fox or NBC that's doing the coverage. NASCAR races, Daytona 500 excluded, I should say, will average between 3 to 3.5 million people. So we'll say 3.25. We'll get final numbers later. NBC IndyCar coverage, 1.026, other than the Indy 500. But yet they're going to toss the vast majority of the races from NASCAR over to Fox Sports 1 when the main network will air a less viewed motorsports event. Think about that.
The second Peacock race this year is Milwaukee race number 1.
Thank you. Okay. USA Network. Last year, they ran one race on USA in IndyCar in 2023. That was Long Beach. It garnered just over 300,000 people. That's a crown jewel race. Barely garnered 250,000 viewers. There's your difference, boys and girls.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Rock the South 3 days.
Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here, and other IndyCar news for the week. Juncos Hollinger Racing has said that I'm going to get his name right, Agustin Canapino. I keep hearing different pronunciations of this.
Same here.
He's set to return after taking the week off at Road America, driving the number 78 at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Plans are to have him in the car for the rest of the year as well. Remember, Nolan Siegel filled in for him at Road America. If you missed last week's show, this was all because of some, let's just say, overzealous fans of Canapino that were sending death threats and other threats to his competitors in IndyCar, who have had run-ins or on-track incidents, whatever you want to call it, with their favorite driver. Latest which, of course, was with rookie Teo Pourchaire, heel of Aero McLaren Racing at the Grand Prix of Detroit. It was an incident that actually caused the severing of the marketing ties, as we talked about last week on the show, between the two organizations. Aero McLaren executives said that it really had more to do with kind of the attitude that Canapino showed. They said it was really kind of a dismissive attitude that had been shown toward the actions of his fans. Canapino said that he used the time off to understand better the differences between his home of Argentina and the United States when it comes to words on social media. And I'm not so certain I buy that. I mean, to a certain extent, yeah, you're not responsible for the actions of your fans because, what'd you do, pay them? No. They happen to be fans of yours, and if they happen to be overzealous, well, that is, yes, it's on them. But you can't tell me that you don't understand that these things do have consequences.
This is a touchy subject for me because, yes, your responsibility is the driver of the car. Your responsibility is to... One thing, let me back up. Not your responsibility is to control your fans.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no way.
I see where you're going.
There's no way you can do that all the way around.
No.
There's going to be, and I'm just going to say it like it is, there's going to be that one idiot somewhere that's going to do something with them thumbs. Yeah, they can't see me. They can't see me. They can't see me. Screenshot. They're going to find you somehow, some way. And this happened last year across a couple of motorsports platforms. Social media is at the point to where it's killing careers.
Yeah. Yep.
Of people that it is not responsible for the actions of others. If I said that correctly and you understand what I'm saying.
No, I do. Because here's the thing. Again, Canapino is not responsible personally for the actions of his fans, overzealous or what.
Right.
Now, could Canapino have said something like, hey, this is unacceptable and don't do it? Yeah. But that's really about all he could do.
That's how you, leave it as a, shut up and let me handle this.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of mentality.
I'm the one behind the wheel of the car. I'll be all right.
But
settle down, my fans. And this goes back to what I have said before, and this is kind of backed up by the most recent ESPN 30 for 30. If you have the chance to watch it, it's actually quite fascinating. It's entitled, I'm Just Here for the Riot.
Yeah.
And it's about 13 years ago, when the Vancouver Canucks were in the Stanley Cup Finals, ended up losing in a heartbreaking 7th game to the Boston Bruins. And what happened outside, instead of being upset and taking their sorrows out by drowning themselves in whatever kind of beer they prefer, they held a riot. And I've said this many, many times in my life. A crowd of people is only as smart as the dumbest person in there. And all it takes is one person who has gotten to the point where they're so ticked off that they break a window, or they create a Molotov cocktail, or they convince a group of people to overturn a car or set fire to the car, and suddenly, what do you got? You got a riot. It was a hockey game.
I go back to the common conception. Individuals are smart. People are stupid.
Yeah. Welcome to Men in Black.
And the where it all stemmed from, I've been waiting on this one. Where it stems from is one of those said individuals that were thumb talking. Let's say that.
Yeah. Keyboard warrioring.
Yeah. That was thumb talking. Canapino hit that little like button, which now Twitter, X, Twix, whatever you want to call it, has now got a feature to where if you like something, it can't be seen. Okay. Let's revert back here. Canapino likes what's said, and then you have Jenna Fryer finds it, and she will not let it die.
No. Nope, she won't.
And
she's like our new puppy with a new bone.
And I just put the box in place for today, boys and girls.
Yeah. We'll get back to the media side of it.
Yeah. I just set the box in place.
Yeah. Other news, Team Penske, as we noted, swept the podium last weekend at Road America. Then in one of the final tests before the new hybrid system will actually be used in race conditions, they turned the 3 fastest laps at Milwaukee Mile on Tuesday. 20 cars taking part in the test on Tuesday. Will Power was the quickest, turned a lap of 22.6001 seconds at 161.521 miles per hour. That's on the Milwaukee Mile. That's hauling pretty good.
That's moving.
Joseph Newgarden was second. He was a 1/10 of a second behind Scott McLaughlin, third, 2 100ths behind Newgarden. Slowest on the day was Catherine Legg, who actually got in the car, number 51 for Dale Coyne with Rick Ware Racing. Slowest time of the day, 24.1166 second lap at 151.365 miles per hour.
A second and a half off pace.
Yep, 1.5 seconds, 10 miles an hour off of Power's pace. The new hybrid system slated to be used in the Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. That's Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the weekend of July 5th through the 7th. This will be interesting to see.
And remember, kids, Mid-Ohio's been repaved.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be fast with a lot of grip.
Wish I was going back this year.
As noted, this is an off weekend for IndyCar, but we also noted in the race schedule rundown but don't expect all of them to be off this weekend. 7 drivers who have raced in IndyCar this weekend, they're participating in the prestigious 24 Hours of Le Mans. Yeah, it just got started, by the way. As we got underway with the show, you can check it out on Motor Trend TV, and I think the Max streaming service are the two of the places that I know of that you can check it out.
Actually, 5 minutes to go, and then it starts.
5 minutes ago when they finally
drew
threw the green flag? Okay. Scott Dixon and Alex Palou are with the Cadillac team. Palou, part of the number 2 squad. Dixon, one of the trio of drivers in the number 3 entry. In the hypercar division, you got Callum Ilott and Romain Grosjean, members of 2 separate teams there. The youngster, Nolan Siegel's also over there. He's running in the LMP2 class. So is Colin Braun. Braun got a run with Dale Coyne Racing earlier this year. Again, coverage began right about the same time that we did. Green flag, as you said, dropped to 5 minutes ago-ish?
It drops in 5 minutes.
Drops in 5 minutes, okay. And then one more note. And this kind of goes back to something that we were thinking about, I guess it was about a year ago now.
Yeah, I'm browsing the entry list right here for Le Mans.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But think about this one. Speaking of IndyCar drivers, or in this case, teams that are in other forms of racing. This week, on the Dale Jr. Download, who should appear but the legend, Mario Andretti? They got to talking about many different subjects, and of course, got around to talking about what you would think about, and what we have kind of been talking about for a while here, speaking about like our new puppy with a new bone, about Andretti Global's efforts to get into Formula One, which I just won't let go. Dale asked Mario about the team's other racing ventures, noting that last summer, longtime Andretti Global partner Gainbridge became a primary sponsor with Spire Motorsports and NASCAR. Dale Jr. asked, might Andretti follow along? And Mario responded, quote, with Michael being involved in every aspect of our sport, racing, that gives me reason to find a home no matter where I go. Pretty soon, it's going to be a home even in Cup, and I hope I'm still alive for that. What did we say this whole connection was going to do? At the very least, at some point in time, we kind of expect Spire Motorsports with Andretti Global. or Andretti Global with Spire Motorsports? When did we say that? Last year, about this time, I'm thinking? Ish? I can't remember exactly when the Gamebridge deal was signed.
When you people get ready to send me my check for calling the shot, I will give you my address. I'm pretty sure I called this one.
Uh-huh. Saw it coming. And there's Mario. Thank you very much, Mario. We appreciate you.
I will send you the clip, Mario, where I called this shot.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure we could find it. That brings us over to the Cup Series and probably the second biggest story of the week, with all due respect to him. TV deals, they're huge, let's face it. Yesterday, in media sessions at Iowa Speedway, Joe Gibbs and Martin Truex Jr. got up on the stage, and Martin Truex Jr. made it official about his future. He is retiring from the Cup Series full-time at the end of the year. He says he's retiring from full-time competition, meaning he'd be willing to come back for a one-off here and there, I'm thinking.
That's what everybody's doing now, calling off from full-time competition.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Truex is set to turn 44 on June 29th, coming out of Mayetta, New Jersey, got into racing in go-karts, moved up into modifieds in 1998 as soon as that was legally allowed, as New Jersey laws wouldn't allow him to get into anything bigger than a go-kart until he turned 18. Thanks, New Jersey. In 2000, he moved to North Carolina, rented the home of one Dale Earnhardt Jr. Following in his own father's footsteps, Truex got a ride in the old Busch North Series, running 2 full seasons with 13 poles and 5 wins before he got pulled up to what is now the Xfinity Series. First driving for his father in the number 56 Chevrolet. But in 2003, his first full season in the series, he also got a chance to drive for Chance 2 Motorsports in their number 81 Chevrolet, and they would split his time the rest of the year. He'd moved to Chance 2 full-time in 2004. Got 4 wins that year, go on to claim the title, besting a kid you might have heard of, Kyle Busch. He had also gotten his first ride in the Cup Series. He took over the 8 for Dale Jr., who had recently been burned in a sports car crash. That was a relief position. It also led to a spot start in a part-time number 1 car for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated at Atlanta. It wasn't exactly a banner race for him. He qualified 33rd and finished 37th. But he remained on everybody's radar, even though he stayed full-time in the what we now call Xfinity Series for 2005. He successfully defended his title, won his second in a row, claimed 3 wins that year. And DEI said, you know what, we'll go ahead and bring you up to Cup. We don't care about that lackluster single start. Drove their number 1 car. He responded by getting 2 top 5s. He won the All-Star Open and got into that year's All-Star race where he jumped up and finished 10th. Mm-hmm. The next year, though, DEI merged with Chip Ganassi Racing. He remained in the 1 car, though. He would go on to win 3 poles, but no races. After that year, flipped over to Michael Waltrip Racing. He was going to take over the number 55, but at his request, they reassigned the points for the 55 to the 56, going back to with his racing with his dad. In 4 seasons there, he wouldn't get a win, but he did get 16 top 5s before the team folded, and then he moved into the Underdog Furniture Row Racing team. In 5 years with the Denver, Colorado based team, he would begin to shine. 17 wins and ultimately would lead the number 78 to their only title, the 2017 season. It was the team's affiliation with Joe Gibbs Racing that allowed him to move over there following Front Row's departure from the Cup Series, though. And he's been there ever since in the 19 car. As of this weekend, going into racing at Iowa, Martin Truex Jr. has the 2017 title. He's got 34 race wins, 23 pole positions, and 287 top 10s in Cup Series competition. He claims another 13 wins and 10 pole positions, along with 62 top 10s and 104 starts in the Xfinity Series, and a win and 1 top 10 in 3 Craftsman Truck Series races. The win came in the 2021 Bristol Dirt Race, and that marks him the 36th out of only 40 drivers to claim wins in all of NASCAR's top 3 levels. Martin Truex Jr. may be retiring at the end of the year, but I guarantee you Martin Truex Jr., producer John's favorite driver, will end up in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and deservedly so.
You know what that means?
Yeah.
You're now looking again for another driver.
I'm taking applications for a favorite driver.
And payment needs to come with that.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, it doesn't have to be cash.
You know,
swag works. Swag works.
It
T-shirts,
makes me
hats.
sad. Tony Stewart retired. That took away my favorite.
Yeah.
So I had to find one, and his attitude and professionalism drew me to Martin Truex.
I can see that.
So now I'm in search of another.
Yeah.
I can tell you who it won't be, but we won't go there.
Oh, sure. Why hold back?
You know.
No, I'm saying,
And anyone who's followed the show knows.
Well, that's
who it won't be for me.
and I'll say this: yes, John will accept payment. Cash would be nice, but he would accept hats, T-shirts, jackets. So,
Yeah.
drivers, get a hold of us. Let us know. Producer John's in the market. And then you got RFK Racing's Stage 60 program. This is that third car in the Cup Series organization, supposed to get a handful of races this year, but so far they only put the car out on the track for the Daytona 500. It will get broken out again. Chicago Street Course race, and Ford factory driver Joey Hand is going to be behind the wheel of the car. Now, Hand's not totally new for NASCAR. This will be probably his best ride by far. He ran for Rick Ware Racing in 2021 at the Charlotte Roval in their number 52 entry. Got into 6 races last year for Rick Ware as well, all of them on road courses. Hand is, let's face it, he's not a young guy. You know, I say that as being a guy who will turn 56 in August, okay? But Hand's now 45. So I don't think he's going to be making a switch to full-time Cup anytime too soon.
Nope.
Joined with Ford Racing in 2016 in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. He's also raced in Australian Supercar Series, continues to run for Ford actually in several series to this date. It will be interesting to see how he does. I mean, now we're with SVG coming in last year as a quote-unquote road course ringer and doing something that all those road course ringers had never really been able to do before, which was go out and get a win.
Correct.
Now, all of a sudden, NASCAR teams suddenly seem to be looking back and going, you know what? Let's try and revisit that whole road course ringer thing and see if we can't find one. For a while there, it seemed like the NASCAR drivers were taking this so much more serious. Now, all of a sudden, the NASCAR team owners are going, well, why don't we just go back to the road course ringer thing?
Because you've got a car that now opens that up.
I guess.
And this will hands down be his best ride of his career.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Hands down.
Undoubtedly. Iowa Speedway is going to be fun, but it might be treacherous. We'll tell you why next.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
KNG, 1450 AM,
And W236 CQ 95.1 FM, Anniston.
95.1 The Mountain.
Anniston Oxford's classic station.
4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome in. We appreciate you joining us. Hour number 2 just getting underway with myself, Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here on this Father's Day weekend. And NASCAR is finally heading back to Iowa Speedway. This is a track NASCAR owns, mind you. But this is the first time that they're going back there with the National Touring Series since 2019.
Here's another person that's coming up that his name starts to irk me now.
This marks, by the way, again, the first time ever for the Cup Series at the short track, 7/8 of a mile long. For those who are fans of the track, you might note the track has changed a little bit. Yeah. What had been described in words as being the bottom lane to lane and a half, when you look at the pictures, turns out to be
2.5.
Yeah. That's about 3 grooves of racing right there that they actually dealt with. But they had to repave it. But only the bottom lanes and only in the turns. So in other words, not all the way out to the wall and not all the way around the track. Elton Sawyer, who has his weekly chat on Sirius XM Satellite Radio NASCAR channel, he's NASCAR's VP of competition, said of this, quote, "The one thing that over time that with this facility, obviously the winters are hard there in Iowa. I know, I've got friends who live there. That's why my wife and I didn't move there. The winters are ridiculous.
Just like the summers are hard here in Alabama."
Yeah. But considering the fact that I'm much more affected by cold as I get older, I don't really want to go around on days when the high doesn't reach 0.
It's just me. I would rather it be 20 than be 90.
Iowa might be a place for you. Anyway, getting back to what he said, obviously the winters obviously the winters are hard there in Iowa, and it took a toll on the surface. Our goal all along when we announced this race back in October of last year was to not repave, but as we started scheduling events, whether it was a tire test, looking at the facility, once we got into the early part of the calendar this year, it was apparent that there were some areas that we were going to have to take a look at and do some repaving. Again, our goal all along was not to do that. We wanted our fans to see that track and the race where the surface had been worn. That just wasn't going to be the case. So they had to do a partial repave, claiming that there wasn't enough time to do a full repave.
I can tell you now where it come from, and it's not anything to do with the asphalt being worn. Because if it has anything to do with the asphalt being worn, Atlanta Motor Speedway in its old form would like a word with you, Elton Sawyer. Anybody that has driven on and competed at Iowa Speedway on iRacing, what is the number one thing that you encounter? The characteristic of the racetrack that is so bumpy in the corners. Guess what these new next-gen cars don't like in the corners?
Bumpy.
Bumps.
Yep.
That's where it come from.
After they did a tire test last month, Danny Hamlin said that it reminded him a bit of what had been done at Pocono Raceway some years ago, and that the track now has some, quote, grip strip vibes through the repaved turns. Sawyer was asked about only those areas, answered that there simply had not been enough time to perform a full repave, adding, quote, but as we lead into the weekend, we don't anticipate any issues with the surface. Maybe you want to talk to the Cup guys who had a 50-minute practice yesterday, and how many of them had tire issues?
That'd be 5. And how many's going to backup cars? That'd be 2.
Oops.
Plus 1 Xfinity driver.
It'll be real interesting to see how the drivers adapt to this.
This has got to be one of the dumbest things I've seen, because you got 2 bottom grooves essentially paved. Your top third half a groove, whatever you want to call it, doesn't start equal to the paved lines going into the entry of the corners. It starts later, and then you've got a good solid 3 car lengths worth of paving in that third farther line. So you got this is your bottom lanes, and then the top lane extends out like this. It looks
like a patchwork.
A patchwork, thank you. and then there's a spot coming out of 4 where the top patch was that's what we'll call it, was paved, and you've got asphalt streaks where the tires drove over all the way down the racetrack. It looks like a 3-year-old got this racetrack ready for Cup to come to for an inaugural race.
Well,
It's pathetic.
it actually is a patchwork because you can't call doing sections
A repave.
a repave.
You can't.
It's a patch.
Correct. Yeah. This is and again, I mean, new pavement and old pavement, it's very obvious where the new pavement is versus the old pavement because new pavement's going to be obviously much darker when it comes to asphalt. And it's just it's so strange to me, and I don't know whether they're going to perform a full repave on this track. I don't know whether that's in the plans. But based upon a 50-minute practice with 5 Cup Series drivers and 2 of them having to go to backup cars having tire problems, I would say probably you need to think about it.
And tires are not lasting more than 25 laps.
Yeah.
That is going to be a major problem in a 350-lap race tomorrow.
I had wondered why when I heard this, and I give quote-unquote America's crew chief, Fox and Sirius XM Satellite Radio, Larry McReynolds, all the credit for opening my ears to this because I heard it when I happened to be listening to Sirius XM earlier this week. NASCAR's allowing these teams 10 sets of tires. And I was thinking to myself, for a 350-lap race, they're going to bring them 10 sets of tires? That seems like an awful lot.
25.
Now we know why.
25. All right. Your tire test session, which was middle of last month, I don't think temperature is going to be that big of a difference.
Shouldn't
A
be.
little
no.
bit, but that
Yeah, it might
big
be a
of
little
difference.
warmer, but not terrifically.
A little bit warmer now versus then. Okay, let's do the math here. Say they're only lasting 25 laps in the practice session yesterday. What's 25 times 10? 250.
Still 100 laps short.
You're still 100 laps short. So you're going to have somebody in a pedal fest crawling around on worn tires?
Or we're going to get a Bristol situation where all of a sudden NASCAR is going to go, well, why don't we go ahead and let you get at least another set of tires, maybe 2.
Or 2.
Yeah, we'll see. The fine folks over at MBM Motorsports are not going to get to the chance to experience that new lane. They were initially supposed to go, but because of a lack of sponsorship, have withdrawn. David Starr was set to drive the number 66 Ford Mustang Dark Horse for MBM Motorsports. Now their plan is to regroup, they hope, with plans to have sponsorship to get into the event at Nashville Superspeedway at the end of the month. I guess we'll see. MBM Motorsports has been fairly regular in and around the Xfinity Series and such, but this attempt to do Cup Series just is not really working out for them. Legacy Motor Club has announced they got themselves a new long-term sponsorship in Massey Motor Freight. They become a multi-year, multi-race primary sponsor. They're going to show up on both the 42 and 43 cars throughout the contract. That'll start at Nashville later this month. The company is also said to become a year-long associate sponsor on the number 42 of John Hunter Nemechek as well. Oh, why does it feel like whenever we talk about this charter proposal that we feel like we're taking one step forward? Hey, finally got the new proposal out to the teams. Great, fantastic.
But we're taking...
And then we take 2 steps back.
I was thinking more like 300 steps back.
Yeah. So the proposal's out there. And the teams that had not been happy with the previous proposals and rejected them outright are probably set to reject this one outright as well. This proposal still does not allow for making the charters permanent. Many people state that that's one of the reasons why Stewart-Haas Racing is backing out of the Cup Series. I'd say it's probably one of a multitude of reasons, but that's another story for another day. And again, I'm not going to put words into either Tony Stewart's or Gene Haas's mouths.
I would say it's a definite, legitimate concern.
Sure. I'd say it's one of a number of bullet points. There are some other complaints about some teams claiming that this is the worst proposal yet. Ouch. This offer from NASCAR that the teams have not yet accepted, and again, sounding more and more like they won't, would guarantee the charters for the next 7 years, effectively for the length of this upcoming television contract, with the option for another 7 years after that. Here's the thing. What we don't know is whether that option belongs to NASCAR or belongs to the teams, or whether it's a combination of the two. Some other sticking points. There is some form of a cost cap of unknown parameters included in this. And this would be the breaking point for me if I'm a team owner. I don't care whether I'm Rick Hendrick, Tony Stewart, Rick Ware, Richard Childress, Joe Gibbs. Doesn't matter. Could be any of them. There's a report that in this is that the France family, which owns NASCAR, would be allowed to buy charters.
They're trying to invoke the Roger Penske rule.
Along with a provision in which private equity firms could buy in charters as well.
They're trying to bring in an element of Formula One.
Stop, NASCAR. The one thing that has made NASCAR what it is today is that it was set aside from just about every other form of racing on the planet. There was no other form of racing like NASCAR anywhere. And why? It was because Big Bill France and his son, Bill Jr., they listened when it was important and ruled with an iron fist when it wasn't. At other times, I should say. There used to be a time, for example, when, let's just use the three of us as an example. I'll put producer John in his favorite ride. I'll put producer John in a Dodge. I'll put myself, just because we're going all the way back to the days of Dodge. Remember Oldsmobile, kids? One of my favorite looking cars, the old gray Ghost, the number 28. Go look it up. So I'll put myself in the Oldsmobile. What would you like to drive, sir? Pick a brand, any brand, I don't care.
Throw me in one of the old Wood Brothers Mercuries.
Okay. So we got Dodge, we got Oldsmobile, we got Mercury. Three brands that, well, two of them no longer exist and none of them run in NASCAR anymore. But if John is kicking our butts on a weekly basis.
In a Dodge? I would.
In the Dodge. And Matt representing Mercury and I representing Oldsmobile were to walk into the office of one Big Bill France and say, you need to figure out a way to do one of two things. Either throttle the Dodges or give us something that allows us to be more competitive. Do you think Big Bill France would have done that? No.
No, he would have laughed at you and said, go to your shop and do your homework.
Yeah. Big Bill France would have looked at us and said, you need to work with Mercury and you need to work with Oldsmobile and get your cars better, or you can switch to Dodge. We'll see you at the track next weekend. Bye. We're bending over backwards to try to appease too much and try and keep control where control doesn't need to be kept.
I would say this. The way things are going and turning right now. One, may God continue to rest their souls and let them rest in eternal peace. But Big Bill and Bill Jr. are probably doing double tuck handheld somersaults in their graves right now. Big Bill would probably be bending Jim over his knee, beating the daylights out of him, and an old school whipping. And Bill Jr. would probably be hitting Jim across the mouth. I mean that in all seriousness.
Yeah.
Going, what are you doing?
I don't disagree with this at all.
What are you doing? And then Bill Jr. would probably have Ben bent over his knee, beating the daylights out of him too, going, you need to learn, pay attention. Because it's O'Donnell, Sawyer, Scott Miller, and Phelps. I'm sorry, they don't need to be doing in the positions that they're in right now. Because half of them don't even have a clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
Elton Sawyer knows better.
The idea, correct me if I'm wrong, behind the charters was to give the NASCAR team owners a sense of an ownership stake in NASCAR, not just owning a team that raced in the series, but a feeling like they had an ownership stake within NASCAR itself, right?
I think you're correct.
So what have you done with these charters under this new proposal? Effectively, what you've done is you've tied it to a yo-yo. And you let the yo-yo out and you play with it and you say, here's charter, here's charter, here's charter.
And a statement.
And they're spending as much as $40 million for one, like we heard last year for Spire Motorsports.
And a statement comes out this week that, we can only support these charters as long as we're being supported.
Which means, what did you do with that?
From Jim France.
What'd you do with that yo-yo after you got everybody excited about it? Whipped it right back up and out of their hands.
It's about to be at the point. I'm going to say it. It's about to be at the point we're about to be right back in 1996 all over again with open wheel racing.
Yeah.
It's about to be at that point.
We might just end up having a split here.
And I'm going to say this.
And that hurt in IndyCar. That hurt open wheel racing in the United States.
It hurt kart more than it hurt IRL.
It did, but it hurt them both.
It hurt them both. Yes, I agree. But I said all along, from a business savvy, common sense standpoint, the most dangerous, and this is in a positive sense, the most dangerous car owner in the NASCAR Cup Series is Justin Marks.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Now, the more and more I listen to him talk and give an analysis of what is going on with this charter situation, I will now put Denny Hamlin in that same category.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He is way smarter as a business owner than what in a business
most people give him credit for.
Than he gets credit for. Absolutely.
I would agree wholeheartedly. We'll see. I mean, it's getting worse. I don't know where these proposals are coming from, but it's getting worse, NASCAR, and you better open your eyes. You better open your eyes. We've obviously been talking about NASCAR drivers attempting the double of running both the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. Lately, we have been seeing drivers from the Australian Supercar Series coming over to the U.S. as well, running both IndyCar and NASCAR. Scott McLaughlin, IndyCar, anybody? What about going the other way? Well, last week we talked about it. A couple of drivers from IndyCar beginning to get a little bit louder about their interest in maybe doing the double. A bit tougher, probably, well, guaranteed, would be sending a NASCAR driver down under to run in Australian supercars. But there is a connection here. There's a bridge, if you will. Richard Childress and his connection to the Erebus team, which that's the team Brody Kostecki competes for. Remember that name from last year? He drove the 33 car in a couple of races. They're saying that might result in a one-off chance for one Kyle Busch, although nothing's been confirmed. A website, Speed Cafe, has started a rumor. Let me make sure you understand this. This is a rumor, but it would be pretty cool if it came to fruition. That talks have begun for Busch to head to Australia to run the Vilo Adelaide 500, which would happen November 16th. That's the week after the Cup Series season wraps up in Phoenix, Arizona. That would be cool.
Not bad.
I hope that it happens. I'd love to see it. Again, it's a week. Is that enough time to recover from 38 events of a NASCAR season? I don't know. And let's face it, that's a long trek. That's a long trek. Even if you're just talking Los Angeles to Adelaide, Australia, you're talking 13, 14 hours minimum in a plane. Oof.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Today's economy, small.
2 tires only. And back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Thank you very much for sticking with us. We appreciate you. And let me go back to that TV numbers thing that we were talking about when it came to IndyCar last hour. Fox, of course, wrapped up their coverage for NASCAR's Cup Series for the 2024 season. And in retrospect, they state their overall viewership from the series up over 2023, and that's even despite a rain-delayed Daytona 500. That tends to draw the biggest viewership, obviously, of any Cup Series race in a year, but it gets delayed because of rain, goes over to Fox Sports 1, and that will hurt viewership, let's face it. But Fox Sports reports that the races on Fox and Fox Sports 1 averaged, what did I say, NBC's IndyCar coverage averaged in 2023?
About 1.5 million-ish.
1.026. Remember that number, 1.026. When I tell you that Fox Sports reports that their average for their races in 2024, 3.37 million. 3 times. Plus. That's up 1% over 2023. Noting that when the Daytona 500 was actually run, moved over to Fox Sports 1, and still drew in 3.34 million people. In addition, the network noted that 10 races that aired on the primary network, let me repeat this very, very loudly. Fox Sports noted that the 10 races that aired on Fox averaged 4.01 million viewers. Whereas the Fox Sports 1 race broadcast suffered, averaging 2.39 in comparison. It should be noted that the number's up 13% over last year from Fox Sports 1, but still, look at the difference in the numbers. 4.01 versus 2.39.
Mm-hmm.
And even 2.39 is preferable over 1.026. But yet somehow Fox let themselves be leveraged and are putting all of the IndyCar races on the Fox network.
You got punked.
Pretty much. If you got Sirius XM Radio and you're a fan of Chase Elliott and or Ryan Blaney, you might want to give them a listen. Not on the NASCAR channel necessarily either. Those two guys will be guest DJs for a couple of different channels, which are part of a lineup of celebrities from sports, television, and movies that are all going to be playing guest DJs. Chase Elliott is set to play songs on the Highway channel. His playlist will feature the likes of Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, Eric Church, Megan Maroney, and the like. Who's Megan Maroney?
She's a new artist.
I guess. Never heard of her. As for Ryan Blaney, he's going to spend some time on Willie's Roadhouse. He will choose from songs from the likes of Dolly Parton, Willie Nelson, Ed Bruce, Hank Snow, and Conway Twitty. Pretty nice lineup right there. Other names that will be part of this celebrity guest DJ thing: Howard Stern, James Corden, Kate Hudson, Kevin Hart, Rob Lowe, Conan O'Brien. Not all of them, obviously, will be on the country music channel.
Yeah.
Just saying. Let's turn our attention over to Formula One. And I don't know what it is about somehow fans are getting onto the tracks early, but one would think that this wouldn't be that big of a problem.
Well, what needs to happen to put a stop to this is when when a competitor, whether it be male or female, sees somebody on the track doing something like that right there, instead of here's firewall, here's throttle pedal, instead of going this, go that, somebody will learn real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the closer it is to you getting hit as a pedestrian who ran out onto the track early, the less likely you're going to do that. The promotions group for the Canadian Grand Prix have said that they are set to begin an investigation into what happened at the end of last week's race when fans got onto the track before the on-track action was over. Race stewards said in a statement, quote, "The promoter candidly admitted that the safety measures in place did not achieve the goal to prevent spectators from entering the track." Yeah, there's an understatement. They concurred with the FIA sporting delegate and the race director report and agreed that this was an unacceptable situation. Okay, so far, nailed it in a very understated way. The statement continued, "The promoter stated in mitigation that they would conduct a thorough investigation and take steps to remediate in time for the next event in Canada." The The promotions group is named the Octane Racing Group. They met with stewards right after the race. Stewards added that this also puts the group in violation of the FIA's International Sporting Code, and they are officially on warning that should this occur again, it would likely result in a large financial penalty and maybe double secret probation.
Sure.
Fat, dumb, and stupid's no way to go through life, son.
So wait, let them do it in France. Let them do it in France at Circuit Paul Ricard, to where I would get on the PA and I would just scream. They've sit on the track, no engines are running. I would scream at the top of my lungs these words, and I quote, "Pilotes démarrez vos motors." In French, that means pilots, start your engines.
I like
yes, they use the term pilots, start your engines at Le Mans just now.
it. I like it. That's good. Because they will be flying. Let's see. Where are we going from here? How about Sauber? You know, that team that has 0 points on the year so far. They continue to try to build towards the future that when Audi comes in as the majority owner of the team, they will have hired motorsports and F1 veterans to try and up their promise.
Okay.
For whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
F1 veteran Stefano Sordo is now in. They granted him the just created position of performance director. Well, they haven't had any performance so far, so why not? Sordo has more than 20 years in motorsports, including time at both McLaren and Red Bull, where he's been a race engineer, head of aerodynamics, director of vehicle performance, and most recently was with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing in IndyCar as their technical director. CEO Andreas Seidel said Sordo was set to come in and report directly to James Key. Key himself recently hired by Sauber to be their technical director. They hope to have a strong technical department in place for when Audi comes in 2026 and Audi goes, basic losing is over. They hope. The FIA has given Andrea Kimi Antonelli a waiver. I kind of saw this one coming.
Yep.
But man, they went through 50,000 hoops in order to make this happen. Get this. Kimi Antonelli will be allowed to make his Formula One debut before he turns 18. That's not going to happen until August the 25th. He's currently 17 years old. He drives for Mercedes in Formula 2. And as we continue to go along, he seems more and more likely to be the guy who takes over the seat that Lewis Hamilton will vacate at the end of this year. So, yeah, they're going to go straight rookie, apparently, to pair with George Russell next year instead of an established driver. Okay, Mercedes, knock yourself out.
Yeah, go for it.
The waiver that he's been given will allow him to be part of entire race weekends up to his birthday and allow him to drive in free practice sessions. Practice sessions, they get 3 of them a week. They call them FP1, FP2, FP3. Standing for, in English, free practice. He'll probably get at least one FP1 session, if not more than one. Now, the waiver was needed because back in 2016, the FIA instituted the age restriction that you had to be 18. But here's the thing. They didn't just give Antonelli a waiver. They set themselves up for potential future waivers because they went in and they changed the age restriction rule. It has an addendum. It now reads that 17-year-olds can be considered eligible if, quote, judged to have recently and consistently demonstrated outstanding ability and maturity in a single-seater Formula car competition, unquote.
All righty.
The wording that stated in the FIA rules that a driver must also have a legal driver's license in their home country, ejected. Because here's the thing. Antonelli's not eligible to get a legal driver's license in Italy until when? The day he turns 18. And Italy ain't granting him a waiver. They don't care what he does for a living. Now, all of this, presuming that Antonelli should end up in the Mercedes seat, begins to throw a massive curveball into Formula One silly season.
You know why they're doing this? He turns 18 on August 25th this year.
I know.
Yeah.
Carlos
I see that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I missed it. My bad.
Carlos Sainz, we've said it, out at Ferrari at the end of the year. Lewis Hamilton's coming in, right? Red Bull has already said that they're not going to keep him in favor of keeping Sergio Perez. They're keeping, what's his face in RB?
Yuki.
Thank you, Yuki Tsunoda. Max Verstappen is locked in. We know that. Daniel Ricciardo seems like he'll probably be there. Okay? So Red Bull's out. Mercedes, if they move to Antonelli, is another high-profile team out of the running, and that means suddenly the opportunities for Carlos Sainz have slimmed down a lot. Really to 3 teams if you want to get right down to it. There's the Sauber entry, again, soon to be Audi. We know that they got Nico Hülkenberg coming in next year, and they keep talking about how they probably are going to be jettisoning both of their current drivers in favor of an all-new lineup next year, again, as they prepare for Audi coming in 2026. So maybe it's there. There's Haas F1, which we know Nico is out. It looks like Haas F1 really wants to go after Ollie Behrman from Ferrari. But if Kevin Magnussen continues to work his way out of the seat, which it looks like he's doing very successfully, by the way, maybe he could move there. But all of a sudden we had a rumor that suddenly linked soon-to-be former Alpine driver Esteban Ocon to be leaning towards Haas, who apparently, according to one report, and again, take these with a grain of salt, was more impressed by the Haas F1 outlook than he was at Sauber. Okay.
Uncle Gene, you're about to have an awful lot of money when you sell off everything with this cup stuff. Go
spend it.
Get signs.
And then there is Williams. Williams boss James Voles admits the whole organization is undergoing a major rebuilding process because they are sick and tired of losing. They want to get back to their old winning ways. Voles himself joined Williams as the team principal for the 2023 season. He's brought in some pretty big names. F1 veterans like Pat Fry, promises more big-name signings are coming, says he has Carlos Sainz high on his wish list.
And Williams is creeping up.
Yes,
They're
they are.
not flying up. They're creeping up little by little.
And I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is
absolutely.
you're building a solid foundation as opposed to jumping up 5 rungs on a ladder and not knowing what those rungs that you skipped over, how solid they are.
Yep.
But that brings us to this. All those things that I just said, take these with a grain of salt because they are unconfirmed. Sainz, as we noted on the show last week, once he arrived in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix, met with media and immediately addressed a rumor that began in his own home country of Spain that he had already signed a deal for 2025. He flat refuted it, right? We said that on the show last week. He flat refuted it. He's now gone farther. And my gosh, could Formula One, Indycar, and Nascar, and the NHRA, and Formula E, and every other racing series ever in whatever country, no matter how big or small, please institute this? Mm-hmm. There needs to be some form of punishment for media and media members who spread falsehoods. Sainz said, quote, "It's funny. Now people saying I've signed for Williams. But it's not fair that these people are not banned and punished in some way for some media reports." I'm not talking about you guys. He's talking about the people in the media right in front of him. Because you guys are within Formula One and you know when something has been signed or not. So I can just tell you, but that obviously concerns me that people can get away with that kind of stuff without being punished or anything like that. We here at the Championship Racing Network fully endorse the statement that was just put out by one Carlos Sainz, and we echo it wholeheartedly.
Hallelujah.
I'm glad somebody actually said it from a driver perspective because it's so overdue. So overdue.
I need somebody to rig the next major Mega Millions or Powerball that is in excess of $1 billion to where I walk away with at least about $450 million, because I'm telling you, get the taxes now. I want the lump sum and I want all the money. Take the taxes now. I'm signing Carlos Sainz to drive my car.
I might have a new favorite driver in Formula One.
Carlos Sainz, you're driving my car. You're driving my car.
And you're the official spokesperson for the team. Thank you.
I will go work a deal out to sign a deal with Puma or whoever or whatever, and I will have a Puma emblazoned CRN. Man, that sounds good.
Doesn't it?
Puma emblazoned CRN logos all over your shirts.
I like that. I like that.
You're the man, Carlos.
Absolutely. Love it. When we come back, we'll go ahead and take a break here. We've got some Xfinity news, an interesting bit of news just from the basic world of NASCAR coming up. But I did mention that there were schedules released for 2025. Yeah, IndyCar was there. Formula E put theirs out too. We'll run down the details on that when we come back, as we get into already the final segment of this weekend's show. It will roll on, but we're going to take this short break to just emphasize the fact that we congratulate Carlos Sainz for such well-spoken words.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
So early on in the show here, we unveiled the twin-pronged approach of IndyCar having the new television deal for 2025 with Fox, and then revealed a new 17-race slate. All points races. No more $1 Million Challenge, although they will end up at Thermal Club where the $1 Million Challenge was handled or raced earlier on this year, that becomes a points race, though.
It does.
And the Milwaukee Mile, which is doubleheader weekend this year, turns into a single race.
It does.
It does, however, like you said, it does open up some interesting possibilities of having a NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader of some sort for a weekend or two next year, depending on exactly how NASCAR's schedule comes out, which we're still waiting on. But we do know this. Formula E has put out their schedule for next year. Goes back to kind of that old tradition of starting in one year and continuing into the next. We haven't seen that in the past couple of years. It starts off with preseason testing. It'll return to Valencia, Spain, happen November 4th through the 7th. The 11th season officially of Formula E will get started on December the 7th, Pearl Harbor Day here in the United States, but they'll be in Brazil, Sao Paulo. That'll be their 1 points event in 2024 for season number 11 before they move into 2025, where, strangely enough, they will remain in the Western Hemisphere. So December 7th, how long will it take you to get from Sao Paulo, Brazil to Mexico City? Apparently a month and 4 days. Race number 2, January the 11th in Mexico City.
Well, if you're sending everything on a cargo ship, yeah.
That's a slow cargo ship.
Yeah.
Which apparently is going to try and work its way from the coast all the way to Mexico City. February the 3rd and the 4th will be their first double header of the weekend of the year. 2 races back-to-back in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia. And then they're off until March 8th. But that race, interestingly enough, if you're looking on CRN Live on YouTube, you see this TBD. Yeah, they haven't figured out where exactly that race is going to be yet. Okay. April the 12th is when the series comes to the United States, where they're going to race in Miami. We'll get back to that. May 3rd and 4th, they'll run a doubleheader in Monaco. Hello.
Sorry.
Like that. Let's return to that here just to make sure you got that right. May 3rd and 4th, they'll run a doubleheader in Monaco before they turn around and do another doubleheader in May on the weekend of May 17th and 18th when they'll be in Tokyo. And oh, by the way, just for the ever-living heck of it, we'll do another doubleheader weekend at the end of the month, May 31st and June 1st, when they go to Shanghai, China. Then you go to Jakarta, Indonesia for a race on June 21st, and then you'll wrap up with back-to-back doubleheader weekends in Berlin and London. July 12th and 13th will be Berlin. July 26th and 27th, another doubleheader weekend wrapping up the year in London. That means they are planning on 17 races in all, tying their largest number of races in a Formula E season so far, with this year, for example. Now, for those of you curious, we've been to Homestead, Miami, Matt and I. You've seen Homestead, Miami, likely because NASCAR's been there, 25 or so years?
Ish.
Somewhere in that area. Did you know there's a road course at Homestead, Miami?
I knew.
Yeah. It actually does have one. The road course has actually, though, been altered from its beginning. Its current form is an 11-turn, 2.3-mile-long course. If you're looking at CRN Live on YouTube, you can make out how that particular road course weaves itself in throughout the infield, right? If Formula E keeps that in its full form, and I say that because if they do, 2.3 miles long means that's one of the longest courses Formula E has ever run on. I don't know how many options there are either.
May I interest you in the 1.5-mile oval?
Oh, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. And I think I would have to go take in my first Formula E race if they did that.
Talk about intriguing. Formula E, of course, has been in Miami once. They ran a street course in the Biscayne Bay section of the city back in the debut season, 2014 and 2015. That was the one race where they actually had an American, Scott Speed, finish on the podium. He was second place in the Andretti Autosport entry. That bug is still bothering me. He's the only, by the way, again, American, the only time that an American-born driver has claimed a Formula E podium finish. So there's the schedule for Formula E. With the announcement of that slate of races, Formula E officials also announced this. And I will be intrigued to find out whether or not this will affect the television rights. Formula E announced that the ownership shares of the series have begun to change hands. Warner Brothers Discovery is selling their ownership stake in the series to a company called Liberty Global. Sound familiar? Ring a bell to anybody? Once that transaction completes, it would put Liberty Global as owning 65% of the series. In other words, just shy of 2/3 of the ownership of the series would go to Liberty Global. Now, the reason I asked if Liberty Global sounded familiar, it's because Liberty Global is the parent company of one Liberty Media. You know that entity that holds the commercial rights to Formula One?
Ding.
Now you wonder why I said, or now you know why I said I wonder about the future of the TV rights deal. As much as we can sit here and say that Fox just threw NASCAR under the bus with the new Fox TV IndyCar TV rights deal, let me introduce you to the American television rights for Formula E, which is on a network that hardly anybody gets. The CBS Sports Network, with one exception. The American race probably will find its way onto CBS. Guess who's a partner? CBS. With Warner Brothers Discovery? Yeah. They're connected. Betcha Liberty Media says we want a better deal for TV. Betcha it's coming. Sit back and relax, boys and girls.
It is.
To the Xfinity Series, where Joey Gase Motorsports has signed a deal with the National Fire Protection Association. They will pair for the second year in a row, beginning this weekend at Iowa, to bring attention to the importance of fire safety and protocols. It's a deal that will include also races at Watkins Glen, our own backyard at Talladega, and Charlotte later this year. By the way, National Fire Prevention Week, October 6th through the 12th, in case you didn't know. Junior Motorsports' long-time successful NASCAR Xfinity Series team, but of course word over the last few years has been about their having an interest in getting into Cup Series action and maybe getting a charter, who knows, maybe two, and growing a Cup Series arm to the operation. And a whole lot of people thought that with the Stewart-Haas fire sale that this might be their chance. Dale Jr. refuted that this week, and strangely enough, not on the Dale Jr. Download podcast. He sat down and talked to Bob Pockrass, Fox Sports. Amongst the things that he said, quote, "We're out of the charter business right now. The sale of a charter, I would call it a cycle, right? Well, we missed this last cycle. We'll see what comes down the road. I'm almost feeling like that if I were to ever get involved in the Cup side, it would be like an investment, my personal monetary investment into something current. I would be open to talking to team owners about putting money into a particular singular charter and saying, hey, I'm going to park an investment here in this charter. I'm leaving that for my generations down the road, my girls and what have you. It wouldn't be anything other than that. So I don't know if we'll ever have Junior Motorsports physically owning charters, running a race team, operating every facet of that. I think that ship has sailed.
I think you're seeing a smokescreen.
You might be right.
I think you're seeing a huge smokescreen.
And I can back you up on that to a certain extent. I mean, to a lot of ways, I want to sit here and state flat out that I will tend to take you at your word until you prove me wrong. But as much as I have heard Dale Jr. saying we're out, and even Kelly Earnhardt Miller, his sister and partner in Junior Motorsports, going really hard to refute that, it kind of goes back to the old statement of me think you protesteth too much. Maybe. I don't know. Again, he could be just saying it right off the surface and, yeah, they're not going to get into it. I don't know. I have no clue. I have no inside information on this. But it is interesting to note. It is interesting to note.
Yep.
Find out. In the meantime, Junior Motorsports getting more sponsorship help with the one car for Sam Mayer specifically. They got a deal with a company called 10X Health System. Now, this is not new. This was done earlier this year. That particular car that you see on CRN Live on YouTube was actually run earlier this year at a couple of different races, Richmond being one of them. Well, another 8 races have been added to that deal through the remainder of the year. They've added New Hampshire, Darlington, Watkins Glen, Vegas, Homestead, Miami, Martinsville, and the season finale at Phoenix. So it means basically they're covering the last, 4 or 5 races of the year. Mm-hmm. It's a nice little deal if you can get it.
Not bad.
And what does that mean? It means a little extra money for the team, too.
Like they're hurting for money. Hey, I didn't say that out loud, but hey.
We're just throwing it out there, Charter.
Yeah.
And then there's Viking Motorsport, that team that's kind of paired up with RSS Racing.
Yep.
Viking Motorsport has announced that their partnership with SciApps Incorporated will also result in a new sponsorship for the 38 of Matt DiBenedetto with a company called Recycled Materials, or REMA. It's part of a deal that is set to become a primary sponsorship on 7 upcoming races, and that actually starts this weekend at Iowa, assuming that they can get past raindrops. You were looking at weather a little bit earlier.
Yeah, they got a little bit of that liquid sunshine on the way.
Is that just a quick little front, or they got a whole bunch of stuff behind it?
Looks like it's just going to be a quick little front.
Okay. They might get lucky then. So you got Iowa, then they'll be back on the hood at Nashville, then Chicago for the street course race, Pocono, Darlington, Atlanta, and then Watkins Glen as they get into the playoffs. And one final note here. If you travel a lot, or if you just happen to be going somewhere and you find yourself flying into and or out of St. Louis, or just having a layover in St. Louis, let me show you a new eatery to check out in the St. Louis Lambert International Airport. We'll show it to you on CRN Live on YouTube. It's called the Nascar Draft House. Okay, looks interesting. It's a new spot for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for those who could sit down and eat, or offers grab-and-go options for those who are running from one gate to another. 90 seats inside. It'll be a full-service restaurant and bar located in Terminal 1 near Gate C15. For those of you who've never been into the St. Louis airport, like myself, that might be more information than you thought you'd ever need, but hey, you never know, so I'm giving it to you, because that's what we do here on this show.
I think I'm planning on going to St. Louis anytime soon, but hey.
You never know. It'll be open from 4:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. each day. Now, whether this is a one of one, or whether they're going to start a franchise and put this in a number of airports around the country, I don't know. Maybe it's just throwing out a test line and see whether or not they hook a good fish. I don't know. Whether this is, again, going to grow, we don't know. As for the menu, they call it Southern Comfort Food. For breakfast, you can get things like biscuits and gravy. For lunch and dinner, you can get barbecue ribs, fried catfish, shrimp and grits, gumbo, a whole lot of other offerings. And yes, it is a full-service bar and grill. So there will be adult beverages available if you are so inclined. And, of age. Unlike some Formula One people that we know who just got a waiver.
At least maybe don't do like me when I went into Detroit, laying over in Detroit one time. I was so tired and I asked for sweet tea in Detroit.
And you want to talk about a weird look? If you get outside the southeastern part of the country and you ask for sweet tea, they look at you like you've grown a third eye in your forehead.
That way, her exact words were, "Honey, we don't have that here." I forgot where I was. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Excuse me. Chi-Town Mark, yeah, you never know. Junior is a smart guy. We'll have to see. We'll find out. Hey, Crossed Flags, the podcast, going strong. Episode number 15 in the books. The episode entitled The Education of Young Molly. Yeah, that's how.
And who knows if this week starts out slow?
Yeah.
Round 2 maybe.
Could be round 2. We did specifically call it round 1 because we anticipated there might be slow weeks. And young Molly she's very young.
And there's been exceptionally positive feedback to me off of this episode so far.
We had a lot of fun with it, and we enjoyed it. Hopefully you will tune in as we get episode number 16 coming up this coming Wednesday. And, of course, join us this coming weekend as we bring you all the news and information and commentary. Again, next weekend, Championship Racing Network. Join us then. Until then, all the dads out there, have a happy Father's Day and a safe one. We'll talk to you Wednesday and next Saturday.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450.